What I'm going to look at in this mini lecture is how the derivative of a function f prime of x affects the graph of the underlying function f of x. And to start with, we're going to develop something called the increasing decreasing test. So I have this function here, f of x graphed, and we see it, this blue curve as we go along there. If we follow along the curve from a to b, the function is increasing, and it's also increasing if we follow along the curve from c to d. Now, if we're going from b to c here in the middle, the function is decreasing. If we look then between a and b, I've drawn one of the tangent lines up here, and that has a slope that's greater than 0. That tangent line is going up from left to right, and that's where the function is increasing. Also here from c to d, the function is increasing, and one of the tangent lines there has a positive slope going up from left to right. And if you sort of imagine drawing lots of tangent lines between a and b, or between c and d, all of those tangent lines would have positive slopes. So the slope is equal to the derivative, f prime of x. So what we're seeing here, between a and b the function is increasing, and the slope, or f prime of x, is positive, greater than 0. Here between c and d the function is increasing from left to right, and the slope is positive, so f prime of x is positive or greater than 0. So what we can say then, this sort of implies that if f prime of x is greater than 0, my function f of x has to be increasing. If we look between b and c, sort of the opposite is true. There the function is decreasing, and these slopes all are negative. That means f prime of x is less than 0. So if f prime of x is less than 0, then f of x is decreasing. And so then that leads to this increasing decreasing test, or we can abbreviate it the ID test. If f prime of x is greater than 0 on an interval, then the original function f of x must be increasing on that interval, going up from left to right. On the other hand, if f prime of x is less than 0 on an interval, then the underlying function f of x must be decreasing on this interval. So if you want to tell where a function is increasing or where a function is decreasing, you want to look at f prime of x and decide where it's positive and where it's negative.